She came to Qatar with nothing but a suitcase and a promise to her mother. 3 years later, she fell from a fourth-floor balcony. But was it really a fall? March 23, 2024. A date that would shatter a family in Batangas province forever. It began with a phone call at 4:47 in the morning, the kind that rips you from sleep and drags you into a nightmare you can't escape. Rosa Delgado was already awake. She always woke early these days, her aging body refusing the rest it desperately needed. She was sitting in the small kitchen of her concrete house, drinking instant coffee by the light of a single bare bulb, when her phone began to vibrate on the wooden table. The number was unfamiliar, international, too many digits. Her heart seized before her mind could catch up. Mrs. Delgado? The voice was male, professional, speaking English with an accent she couldn't place. This is Sergeant Omar Hassan from the Doha Metropolitan Police Department. I'm calling about your daughter, Reina Marie Delgado. Rosa's coffee cup slipped from her fingers. Brown liquid spread across the table like a prophecy. There's been an incident. I'm very sorry to inform you that your daughter was found deceased yesterday afternoon. We need you to. The rest of the words dissolved into static. Rosa Delgado, 58 years old, mother of 5, laundry woman, diabetic, widow. Rosa Delgado collapsed onto the kitchen floor and screamed until her neighbors came running. Half a world away, 14 hours earlier, in a narrow alley behind a crumbling apartment building called Al Maha Residences in Doha's Al Nakheel district, Reina Marie Delgado lay motionless on sun-baked concrete. The time was 2:23 in the afternoon. The temperature was 38 degrees Celsius. The sky was the particular shade of washed-out blue that Qatar wears in late March, cloudless and merciless. For floors above, a balcony door hung open, white curtains billowing in the hot breeze like flags of surrender. Her roommate, her best friend, the woman she called sister, stood at the railing, looking down at the growing crowd with an expression that witnesses would later struggle to describe. Some said shock, some said grief. One elderly Pakistani man who had been smoking a cigarette in the alley when the body fell would tell investigators. She looked relieved. May Allah forgive me for saying it, but she looked like someone who had just finished a terrible task. The official report would say depression. The roommate would say heartbreak. She would tell police that Reina had been devastated about a relationship ending, that she'd been crying for days, that she'd talked about how tired she was of struggling. The story made sense. Overseas worker depression was practically an epidemic in the Gulf. Every year, Filipinas threw themselves from buildings, stepped in front of cars, swallowed bottles of pills. The crushing loneliness of separation, the impossible pressure of supporting entire families on minimum wage, the grinding dehumanization of being invisible in a country that ran on their labor, it broke people. It broke them all the time. But the truth about Reina Delgado's death wasn't hiding in statistics about overseas worker mental health. It was hiding in plain sight, in designer bags stuffed beneath a bed that should have held nothing but discount store purchases, in bank transfers totaling hundreds of thousands of riyals from accounts linked to one of Qatar's most powerful trading families, and in the jealous eyes of the one person Reina trusted most in this foreign land. Because what killed Reina wasn't despair or loneliness or the crushing weight of sacrifice. It was something far more human. It was envy that had curdled into obsession. It was a friendship that rotted from the inside. It was the moment when one woman decided that if she couldn't have the golden ticket herself, she would destroy the woman holding it. This is the story of two Filipinas who left everything for a better life. One found love in the most forbidden place imaginable. The other found a reason to kill. Stay with me because the deeper you go, the darker this gets. Welcome to Crime VTH, where the darkest truths are revealed. To our incredible viewers and loyal subscribers, thank you for standing by us. Your support means everything. We bring you daily updates on the most chilling true crime stories from around the world. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. You won't want to miss what's coming next, because this story is about to get much darker. Before we dive into what happened in that cramped apartment in Doha's Al Nakheel district, you need to understand who Reina Delgado really was, because this isn't just a story about a victim. This is about a young woman who carried an entire family on her shoulders, who sacrificed her youth and her dreams for people she loved, and who made one dangerous choice that would cost her everything. Reina Marie Santos Delgado entered this world on September 8, 1996, at exactly 3:15 in the morning, in a small concrete house in Lipa City, Batangas province. Her mother Rosa would later tell people that Reina came out silent, not crying like most babies, just looking around with dark, curious eyes as if she was already trying to figure out how the world worked. The midwife had to slap her twice before she let out her first cry, and even then it was more of a protest than a wail. "This one," the midwife said, "this one will be strong. She doesn't complain." She was the third of 5 children, sandwiched between older brothers who would eventually find construction work in Saudi Arabia and younger sisters who depended on remittances to finish school. The Delgado household ran on an economy of scarcity, not quite poverty, but close enough that the difference was academic. Rice with dried fish for breakfast, rice with vegetables for lunch, rice with whatever could be afforded for dinner, new clothes only at Christmas if then, school supplies bought secondhand, shoes worn until they literally fell apart. Her father, Ricardo, drove a tricycle taxi through the narrow streets of Lipa City for 28 years, 6 days a week, 12 hours a day, ferrying passengers for 15 pesos a ride. He knew every pothole, every shortcut, every regular customer's name and story. He was the kind of man who gave free rides to pregnant women and elderly people who looked like they couldn't afford the fare. He was also the kind of man who coughed blood into handkerchiefs he thought no one noticed, who ignored the pain in his lower back because a hospital visit cost money that could feed his children for a month. In 2015, Ricardo Delgado's kidneys finally gave out. He was 54 years old. The funeral cost 45,000 pesos that the family didn't have. They borrowed from relatives, from neighbors, from a loan shark who charged 20% monthly interest. It took 3 years to pay off that debt. Rosa, Reina's mother, never recovered from the loss. Not emotionally and not physically. The diabetes that had been manageable became aggressive. Her vision blurred. Her feet swelled. Some days she couldn't stand long enough to finish a basket of laundry. But she kept working because stopping meant her daughters wouldn't eat, wouldn't finish school, wouldn't have a chance at the better life Ricardo had always talked about. Reina watched all of this. She absorbed it like water into dry soil. She was 14 when her father died, 18 when she graduated high school as valedictorian, 21 when she finished her commerce degree at Batangas State University, magna cum laude, top of her class, the pride of a family that had sacrificed everything for her education. And then she discovered what that education was worth in the Philippine job market. 6 months of applications, 47 rejection letters, 12 interviews that led nowhere. A degree that should have opened doors turned out to be worth less than a personal connection to someone who knew someone who could get you hired. Reina worked part-time at a grocery store for 280 pesos a day, barely enough to cover transportation and lunch. She watched her mother's health deteriorate. She watched her younger sisters eat less so there would be more for everyone. She watched opportunity pass her family by like jeepneys that never stopped at their corner. And she made the decision that millions of Filipinas make every year. She would go abroad. The tearful goodbye at Ninoy Aquino International Airport happened on March 15, 2021, at exactly 6:30 in the evening. Rosa Delgado stood at the departure gate in her best dress, a faded floral thing she wore to church, clutching her daughter like she might never let go. Her hands were rough and cracked from decades of lye soap. Her eyes were already clouded from diabetes. But she pressed a wooden rosary into Reina's palm and made her promise. "You come home, huh? You work hard, you save money, and you come home to us." Reina was crying too hard to speak properly, but she managed the words that would haunt her family after her death. "Nene, I will send money every month. I will pay for your medicines. I will build you a real house with a real bathroom and a real kitchen. Just wait for me. Give me 5 years. I'm going to save us all." That rosary was still around Reina's neck when they found her body at the bottom of the alley behind Almaha residence. The medical examiner noted it in his report. Personal effects include wooden bead necklace with crucifix, believed to be of religious significance. She landed in Doha on March 16, 2021, at 5:47 in the morning local time. She had 3,000 pesos in her pocket, about 250 riyals, a 2-year work visa, and a contract to sell cosmetics at Crescent Mall for 2,800 riyals per month. That was roughly 42,000 Philippine pesos, more than she could have made in 3 months back home. It seemed like a fortune. It wasn't. The work was brutal in ways she hadn't anticipated. 12-hour shifts, 6 days a week, standing on marble floors in heels the company required, smiling at customers who looked through her like she was furniture. meeting sales quotas that seemed designed to be impossible, miss your target 3 months in a row and you were sent back to the Philippines with a broken contract and a damaged reputation. The other salesgirls taught her the tricks of survival, how to identify buyers from browsers, how to upsell without seeming desperate, how to handle male customers who thought a Filipina salesgirl's job description included tolerating their comments about her body. But Reina never complained. She sent 1,800 riyals home every single month, without fail, without excuse. She kept 1,000 for herself, 400 for her half of rent, 200 for transportation, 400 for everything else. Everything else meant food, toiletries, phone credit, and occasional desperate prayers that nothing would break down or run out before the next payday. She ate 1 full meal a day, usually dinner, usually rice with whatever canned goods were on sale at the Indian grocery store near her apartment. Breakfast was instant coffee. Lunch was whatever free samples she could discreetly take from the mall food court. She lost 15 pounds in her first 6 months, and she shared a cramped apartment with another Filipina to split the rent. That roommate's name was Joy Marasigan, and here's where the story gets complicated. Joy Incorpus Marasigan was born March 15, 1995, in Angeles City, Pampanga Province, exactly 1 year and 6 months before Reina, in a city known for its proximity to the former American military bases and the particular kind of poverty that proximity creates. Her story was Reina's story with different details, different setting, same desperation. Her father left when she was 7, just walked out one morning to buy cigarettes and never came back. Her mother, Erlinda, raised 3 children alone on a seamstress's wages, 600 pesos on good days, nothing on bad ones. Joy learned early that men couldn't be trusted, that money was the only security, that love was a luxury poor women couldn't afford. She was smart enough for scholarships but not connected enough for opportunities. She finished a 2-year vocational course in business administration, the most her family could afford, and joined the same exodus that had claimed Reina. She arrived in Doha in January 2020, 14 months before Reina, and took a job at a different cosmetics counter in the same mall. They met in September 2021, during a lunch break in the mall's basement food court. Both women were eating packed lunches from home, cold rice with dried fish for Reina, cold rice with scrambled eggs for Joy, the universal sign of an overseas worker counting every riyal. Joy noticed Reina's food first. That smells exactly like my nene's dang. Reina looked up, surprised to hear Tagalog. You're Filipina? Pampanga. You? Batangas. Joy's face broke into a genuine smile, the first real smile Reina had seen since leaving home. Kapitbahay tayo. Neighbors. Not literally, but close enough. Same region, same struggles, same reasons for being 6,000 miles from everything they loved. They talked until their lunch breaks ended. They exchanged phone numbers. They started eating together every day. Within weeks, the friendship had become something deeper, the kind of instant intimacy that happens when 2 people recognize their own loneliness reflected in someone else's eyes. We should get an apartment together, Joy suggested in early November. Split the rent, save money. I'm so tired of living with strangers who steal my shampoo. Reina agreed immediately. Living alone in a shared dormitory with 8 other women had been slowly driving her insane. The noise, the lack of privacy, the petty theft, the constant negotiations over bathroom time. Anything would be better than that. They found Unit 4B at Almaha Residences on November 15, 2021. The address that would eventually appear in police reports and international headlines. 450 square feet of peeling paint and cracked tiles, carved into a bedroom barely large enough for 2 single beds pushed against opposite walls, and a kitchen the size of a closet that doubled as their living room. The bathroom faucet dripped constantly. The air conditioning wheezed and rattled and sometimes stopped working entirely in the middle of August, when temperatures hit 48 degrees and the walls felt like they were breathing heat. The narrow balcony overlooking the back alley, the same balcony that would later become a crime scene, was just wide enough for one person to stand and smoke, or for 2 people to squeeze together and watch the sunset if they didn't mind being pressed shoulder to shoulder. The rent was 800 riyals a month. Split in half, that was 400 each, a savings of 200 riyals from what Reina had been paying at the dormitory. 200 riyals meant an extra 3,000 pesos she could send home. It meant her mother's insulin. It meant her sister's school supplies. It meant survival. And for almost 2 years, that's what the apartment represented. Joy would later tell investigators, "We weren't roommates, we were sisters." just born to different mothers. For 23 months, from November 2021 to October 2023, that statement was absolutely true. They decorated their cramped space with photos from home and cheap curtains from the discount store. They cooked adobo and sinigang on a hot plate that threatened to burn the building down. They video called their families together on Sunday mornings, passing the phone back and forth, laughing at siblings' jokes, crying at mother's prayers. They were equals in struggle. Two women earning nearly identical salaries. Reina's 2,800 riyals versus Joy's 2,600, sending nearly identical amounts home, dreaming nearly identical dreams of someday returning to the Philippines with enough money to show for their sacrifice. The difference between them was negligible. They both scraped by. They both counted their coins. They both understood that this life was temporary suffering for permanent salvation. But equality is a fragile thing. It only takes one golden ticket to shatter it forever. And in June 2023, Reina Delgado found hers. She just didn't know it would cost her life. June 14, 2023, 3:47 in the afternoon. A date and time that would redirect the entire trajectory of Reina Delgado's life, though she had no way of knowing it as she stood behind the Estee Lauder counter in Crescent Mall's premium wing, feet aching inside regulation heels, smile plastered across her face like armor, silently calculating whether today's commission would cover her bus fare home. It had been a brutal day. The air conditioning in the premium wing was set to Arctic temperatures, a luxury for customers, a punishment for workers who stood motionless for hours in thin blouses. Reina's back ached from standing since 9 a.m. Her smile muscles were threatening to cramp, and her sales log showed only 340 riyals in purchases, which translated to maybe 35 riyals in commission. Not enough for a decent meal, barely enough for transport. She was mentally debating whether to skip dinner entirely when she noticed him approaching. He moved differently than most customers. There was no hurried pace, no distracted phone scrolling, no air of someone killing time between meetings. He walked like a man who had never been rushed in his entire life, who had never needed to be, who had never even considered that time might be something that could run out. Tall, at least 6 feet, with graying temples that suggested mid-40s and posture that spoke of either military training or old money. His thobe was pristine white, starched so perfectly it seemed to glow under the mall's fluorescent lights. The watch on his wrist, she noticed it because noticing details was her job, was understated and elegant, the kind of thing that cost more because it didn't need to prove anything. Everything about him whispered wealth so quietly that it thundered. "Good afternoon, sir. Welcome to Estee Lauder. How may I assist you today?" He looked at her, actually looked not through her the way most customers did, and smiled. Not the dismissive half-smile she usually received from wealthy men. The expression that said you exist only to serve me. This was something warmer, something that acknowledged her humanity. "I need something for my wife's birthday," he said. His English was precise, accented with the particular rhythms of someone who had learned it from British tutors. Something elegant but not overpowering. She prefers subtlety. For the next 15 minutes, Reina walked him through the fragrance collection with practiced expertise. She explained notes and compositions, the difference between eau de parfum and eau de toilette, which scents worked best in Qatar's climate. He listened attentively, genuinely listened, asking thoughtful questions, seeming actually interested in her opinions rather than just waiting for her to finish talking so he could make his decision. He settled on La Vie Estate Belle, 800 riyals, a good sale, her best of the week. As she processed the purchase, carefully wrapping the bottle in tissue paper and placing it in the signature blue bag, he glanced at her name tag. "Reina," he said, trying out the syllables. "That means queen in your language, doesn't it?" She felt heat rise to her cheeks despite the aggressive air conditioning. "Yes, sir. From the Spanish Reina, though I'm very far from royalty." She laughed self-consciously, gesturing at her salesgirl uniform. He took the bag from her with something like gentleness. "Sometimes queens are found in unexpected places. Thank you for your help, Reina. You've been very kind." And then he was gone, swallowed by the marble corridors and designer storefronts, just another wealthy customer buying expensive gifts for a wife he probably barely touched. Reina thought nothing of it. She went back to her post, back to counting the hours until 9 p.m. closing, back to calculating whether she could afford instant noodles or would have to settle for plain rice again. She didn't expect to see him again. Men like that didn't return to the same salesgirl twice. They had people to buy things for them. 3 days later, he proved her wrong. June 17th, 3:52 in the afternoon. Same counter, same time of day, same pristine thobe, but somehow a different energy, more relaxed, more present, as if he'd been waiting for this moment. The perfume was perfect, he said by way of greeting. My wife loved it. She said it was the best gift I've given her in years. A pause. A small smile. I thought I'd get her the matching body lotion. Keep the success going. Reina helped him select the companion product, a 400 riyal purchase, and this time their conversation stretched beyond the professional minimum. Where was she from? How long had she been in Doha? Did she enjoy her work? What did she miss most about the Philippines? She found herself answering honestly, which surprised her. Usually she gave customers the sanitized version. Yes, she loved Qatar. Yes, the mall was wonderful. Yes, she was so grateful for the opportunity. But something about his attention, his genuine curiosity, made her say things she normally kept private. I miss the food, she admitted. Not just the taste, but the way we eat at home. Everyone sharing from the same dishes. Here I eat alone most nights. It makes the food taste different. He nodded as if he understood. Loneliness changes everything, even the simple pleasures. When she rang up his purchase, he handed her a 200 riyal tip. Her entire day's commission in a single gesture. Sir, this is too much. Please. He pressed the bills into her hand. You've been very helpful, and very honest. That's rare here. She took the money. What choice did she have? 200 riyals was 2 days of food. It was phone credit to call her mother. It was the difference between making rent and begging her landlord for patience. The pattern established itself quickly after that. June 21st, he returned to buy a skincare set. Tip, 150 riyals. June 28th, a makeup palette for his teenage daughter. Tip, 200 riyals. July 4th, he came with nothing to buy at all. I was just passing by, he said, though the premium wing was nowhere near any logical path to anywhere. They talked for 20 minutes about her family, her dreams, her favorite places back home. He told her about his travels: London, Paris, Singapore, New York, cities she had only seen in movies. He described them like he was painting pictures just for her. Before he left, he handed her a business card. Heavy stock, minimal text, just a name, a phone number, an email address. No flashy titles, no corporate logos. In case you ever need anything, he said. Not as a customer, just as someone who might like to talk. The name on the card read, Sheikh Rumi bin Rashid Al Mansour. She didn't call. Not at first. She wasn't naive. She knew what men like him wanted from women like her. She'd heard the stories. Filipinas who got involved with wealthy Arabs and ended up pregnant, abandoned, deported. Domestic workers who disappeared into private households and were never seen again. Qatar was not kind to women who forgot their place, who imagined that attention from powerful men meant anything other than the obvious. But the card stayed in her wallet, tucked behind her national ID, and sometimes at night she would take it out and trace the embossed letters with her fingernail. Sheikh Rumi bin Rashid Al Mansour. She Googled him once, carefully, on the mall's public Wi-Fi. The Al Mansour Trading Group was one of Qatar's oldest family businesses. Shipping, real estate, import-export. The family's estimated net worth ran into the hundreds of millions. Rumi was the second son, the one who ran the real estate division, married in 2008 to a woman from another prominent family. 2 children, a son, 14, and a daughter, 11. A wife, children, a life that had nothing to do with hers. And yet, on July 12th at exactly 9:15 in the evening, her phone rang. International number. Her heart hammered before she could think. Reina. His voice was warm, like he'd been waiting to say her name. This is Rumi. We met at the mall. I hope this isn't too forward. She should have hung up. She should have been cold, professional, distant. But she found herself saying, How did you get my number? The mall directory. A slight pause. I may have made a donation to their charitable foundation. She laughed despite herself. Is that what you call bribery? I prefer creative problem solving. He laughed too. I was calling to ask if you might have dinner with me. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere we could actually talk without me having to pretend I need more skincare products. I don't think that's a good idea, sir. Please don't call me sir. And I understand your hesitation. I know how this must look. I'm not asking for anything you don't want to give. I'm asking for conversation, company. the chance to know you better. She was quiet for so long that he spoke again. I'll be honest with you because you seem like someone who values honesty. My marriage is functional, arranged when I was 22 to unite two families. My wife is a good woman and a good mother, but we are strangers who share a house. I'm not looking for a mistress. I'm looking for a friend. Someone who sees me as a person instead of a business opportunity. Reina closed her eyes. I need to think about it. Of course, take all the time you need. She thought about it for 6 days. She thought about it while selling perfume to women who never looked at her face. She thought about it while eating alone in her cramped apartment, listening to Joy snore in the bed 3 feet away. She thought about it while video calling her mother and watching the older woman's clouded eyes squint at the screen. On July 18th at 9:30 in the evening, Reina Delgado put on her best dress, a modest blue thing she'd bought for a friend's wedding 2 years earlier, and took a taxi to the Pearl Grand Hotel. The suite was bigger than her family's entire house back in Batangas. She stood in the doorway for a full 30 seconds, overwhelmed by the silk drapes, the crystal chandeliers, the furniture that looked like it belonged in a museum. A private dinner had been set up on the balcony, white tablecloth, silver cutlery, candles that flickered in the evening breeze. Rumi rose to greet her, dressed casually for the first time she'd seen. Polo shirt, pressed slacks, no thobe. He looked younger without the formal attire, more human. Thank you for coming, he said. I know it wasn't easy. They talked for 4 hours. About her family, her mother's diabetes, her father's death, her promise to save them all. About his life, the weight of expectations, the suffocation of a marriage built on contracts instead of connection, the particular loneliness of being surrounded by people who wanted things from you. About dreams and disappointments and the strange ways life took you to places you never expected. At 1:30 in the morning, as she gathered her things to leave, he handed her an envelope. Inside, 5,000 riyals in cash. Almost 2 months of her salary. For your time, he said. For your honesty. For making me feel like a person instead of a name. She stared at the money. I can't accept this. Why not? Because it makes this into something else. Something transactional. He was quiet for a moment. Then, everything in life is transactional, Reina. Time, attention, care, they all have value. I'm not buying you. I'm acknowledging that your time has worth, that your presence matters, that you gave me something tonight that I can't get from anyone in my official life. She took the money, and she came back. Again and again over the following months she came back. What grew between Reina and Rumi defied simple categories. It wasn't prostitution. He never once pressured her for physical intimacy. Not in the first month, not in the third, not until she initiated it herself in November because somewhere along the way she had stopped dreading their meetings and started counting the hours until the next one. It wasn't a traditional affair. There were no stolen moments in his marital bed, no sneaking around his family home, no pretending she was something other than what she was. It wasn't love exactly. She wasn't foolish enough to believe he would leave his wife, his children, his empire for a salesgirl from Batangas. But it was something that filled a hollow inside her that she hadn't even known existed. For the first time in her life, someone was asking what she wanted instead of what she could give. Someone was looking at her like she mattered as a person, not as a daughter who owed her family salvation, not as a worker who owed her employer productivity, not as a brown-skinned immigrant who owed Qatar her grateful silence. By August, the gifts had escalated beyond cash. A designer watch she couldn't wear publicly. She kept it in its box, took it out sometimes just to feel its weight in her palm. By September, a Louis Vuitton bag that cost more than her annual salary back home, hidden under her bed because how would she ever explain it to Joy? By October, gold jewelry stored in a locked box beneath the loose floorboard by her bed. By November, a new iPhone that she told Joy she'd won in a mall raffle, a lie that sat heavy in her stomach but felt necessary. The money kept coming. 15,000 riyals in August, 18,000 in September, 20,000 in October, 25,000 in November plus that iPhone, 30,000 in December, along with an offer that made her cry. Let me pay for your mother's treatment. All of it. Insulin, checkups, whatever she needs. By February 2024, Reina Delgado had received nearly 200,000 riyals from Sheikh Rumi bin Rashid Al Mansour, roughly 54,000 American dollars. more money than her family had seen in 3 generations. Her mother's medical bills were paid off, years of accumulated debt erased with a single wire transfer. Her youngest sister was enrolled in a proper university instead of the vocational school they'd originally budgeted for. A down payment had been made on a modest house in Lipa City, a real house with a real bathroom with a real kitchen, just like she'd promised at the airport 3 years ago. She was saving her family, just not in the way she'd imagined. But secrets have a cost. And in the cramped confines of Unit 4B, Al-Maha residences, a cost was accumulating that Reina hadn't noticed. Because someone was watching, someone who shared her meals and her bathroom and her memories of home, someone who was slowly drowning in debt while Reina mysteriously flourished. Joy had noticed the new phone. She'd found the Louis Vuitton bag hidden under the bed while looking for a dropped earring. She'd heard Reina whispering on late-night phone calls, laughing softly at things that weren't funny, saying, "I miss you too," to someone who wasn't family. And in Joy's mind, trapped in her own spiral of debt and desperation, watching her mother's cancer grow while her savings stayed flat, a question had started to fester like an infected wound. Why her? Why did Reina get a golden ticket while Joy got nothing? And what would it take to make things fair? Joy Marasigan first noticed something was wrong on September 23, 2023, at approximately 11:47 in the evening. She had come home early from a double shift. Her feet were swollen, her back was screaming, and the mall supervisor had taken pity on her after she'd nearly fainted near the perfume samples. The apartment was dark when she unlocked the door, which was strange. Reina should have been home by 9:30. Her shift ended at 9. Joy flipped on the light and saw that Reina's bed was empty. Not slept in empty, made up empty, the sheets tucked tight like she hadn't been home at all. The bathroom was silent. The kitchen showed no signs of dinner being prepared. She checked her phone. No messages from Reina. No explanation. At 12:15 a.m., Joy heard the apartment door open. Reina slipped inside like a ghost, shoes in her hand, trying to be quiet. She froze when she saw Joy sitting on her bed, wide awake, watching. "Where were you?" Reina's face cycled through several expressions: surprise, guilt, calculation, before settling on something that was almost a smile. "I went out with some friends from work. Sorry. I should have texted." "What friends? You don't have friends from work." "Neither of us do. New friends, from the other wing. We got dinner." Joy wanted to believe her. Sisters trusted each other. But something in Reina's eyes, something evasive, something she'd never seen before, made her stomach turn. "You're wearing makeup," Joy said quietly. "You never wear makeup outside of work." Reina touched her face reflexively. "I didn't take it off after my shift. I was tired." It was a small lie, the kind that shouldn't have mattered. But Joy lay awake that night listening to Reina breathe in the bed 3 feet away, and she knew. She knew with the certainty of someone who had shared every meal and every secret for 2 years, that her sister was hiding something. The knowing would eat her alive over the next 6 months. To understand what happened to Joy Marasigan, you need to understand what was happening in Pampanga province while Reina was collecting designer bags and cash envelopes. Erlinda Marasigan, Joy's mother, 61 years old, former seamstress, had been diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer in March 2022. The diagnosis came from a free screening clinic at the provincial hospital, delivered by a doctor who couldn't look Erlinda in the eye when he explained what the shadow on the mammogram meant. Stage 2. Operable. Survivable with proper treatment. The word proper was doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence. Proper treatment meant a mastectomy, 180,000 pesos. Proper treatment meant chemotherapy, 45,000 pesos per session, 8 sessions recommended. Proper treatment meant radiation, 120,000 pesos for the full course. Proper treatment meant medication, follow-up appointments, CT scans, blood work, an endless cascade of expenses that added up to approximately 850,000 pesos. That was the number in March 2022. By October 2023, the cancer had progressed to stage 3. It had spread to the lymph nodes. The new treatment estimate was 1.2 million pesos, roughly 21,000 American dollars, and the timeline had shrunk from within a year to within 6 months, or we can't guarantee anything. Joy had been sending money home since she arrived in Qatar in January 2020. Every month, like clockwork, 1,600 riyals, sometimes 1,800 if she could swing a few extra shifts. In 4 years, she had accumulated approximately 180,000 pesos in her mother's treatment fund. The gap between what she had and what she needed was over 1 million pesos. At her current saving rate, it would take her 7 more years to close that gap. Her mother didn't have 7 years. Her mother might not have 7 months. Joy started working double shifts in October 2023, 6 days a week, 14 hours a day. She would leave the apartment at 7 a.m. and return at 11 p.m., feet so swollen she had to soak them in warm water before she could sleep. She ate 1 meal a day to save money, usually the cheapest thing from the food court, a 12 riyal shawarma that sat in her stomach like cement. Her body started breaking down. Chronic headaches, back pain that never fully went away, a persistent cough from the mall's aggressive air conditioning. Her hair started thinning from stress. She lost weight she couldn't afford to lose. And through all of this, she watched Reina. She watched Reina come home late 3 nights a week with no explanation. She watched Reina buy a new phone, an iPhone 15 Pro Max, the expensive one, and claim she'd won it in a raffle that Joy had never heard announced. She watched Reina's remittances home suddenly double, then triple. She watched her roommate, her sister, transform from a fellow survivor into someone with a secret life. Joy started keeping a journal on November 1st, 2023. Not a diary, something more clinical. Evidence, maybe, though she didn't know for what. The journal would later be recovered by investigators from a locked drawer in Joy's bedside table. The entries paint a portrait of a woman descending slowly into obsession. November 3rd, 2023. Reina came home at midnight again. Said she was working late, but I checked her schedule on the break room board. She was off at 6 p.m. Where was she for 6 hours? She's hiding something. I know she's hiding something. November 8th, 2023. Found an envelope in Reina's drawer. I wasn't snooping. I was looking for the scissors we share. There was at least 5,000 riyals inside. Maybe more. Cash. Who has that much cash? Our salaries are almost the same. Where is this money coming from? November 15th, 2023. Nene called crying. The pain is getting worse. Doctor says the cancer is spreading faster than expected. We need to start treatment within 4 months or he can't promise anything. I have 190,000 pesos saved. I need over 1 million. Where am I supposed to find 1 million pesos? God, please help me. Please. November 22nd, 2023. Reina sent 8,000 riyals home this month. 8,000. I saw the remittance receipt on her phone when she left it unlocked. Her salary is 2,800. She can't send more than she makes. The math doesn't work. Unless there's money I don't know about. Unless she has a source she's not telling me. December 3rd, 2023. I found it. Under her bed. A Louis Vuitton bag. Not fake. I've worked in malls long enough to know the difference. This bag costs at least 8,000 riyals. Maybe more. She's been hiding it. She's been hiding everything. What else don't I know? December 10th, 2023. Confronted her about the bag. She said it was a gift from a friend. I asked what friend. She said I didn't know them. I asked when she made friends who could afford Louis Vuitton. She changed the subject. She's lying to me. We were supposed to be sisters. Sisters don't lie. December 28th, 2023. I heard her on the phone last night. She was in the bathroom with the water running, but I could still hear her. She was laughing, whispering. She said, I miss you too. She said, I can't wait to see you. This isn't a friend. This is a man. She has a man. That's where the money is coming from. That's where all of it is coming from. January 2024 was when Joy's curiosity hardened into something darker. The realization didn't come all at once. It built slowly, like water behind a dam, each new discovery adding pressure until the structure couldn't hold anymore. She started paying closer attention, noting when Reina left, when she returned, what she wore, how she smelled. On January 8th, Reina came home with a new gold bracelet she tried to hide under her sleeve. On January 15th, Joy found a second envelope of cash, this one containing what looked like 10,000 riyals. On January 23rd, she overheard another phone conversation, this time catching fragments. Rumi and tomorrow night and the usual place. Rumi. An Arab name. A man's name. Joy Googled it on her phone that night, searching Rumi Rich Doha and Al Mansur Rumi and Wealthy Qataris Doha. She didn't find anything definitive, but she didn't need to. The picture was clear enough. Reina had found a sponsor, a sugar daddy, a wealthy Qatari man who was paying her for what? Companionship? Sex? Did it matter? What mattered was this: Reina had a golden ticket. Reina was being showered with money and gifts while Joy worked herself half to death for scraps. Reina's family was being saved while Joy's mother rotted from the inside out. The unfairness of it was suffocating. January 28, 2024, journal entry. I've done the math. Reina has probably received 150,000 riyals in the past 6 months. Maybe more. That's almost 2.5 million pesos. More than enough for Nene's treatment. More than enough for everything. And she's spending it on her family while I watch mine die. We started in the same place. We came here together. We were supposed to struggle together. Why does she get to escape while I'm still drowning? February 5, 2024. I can't stop thinking about it. I can't sleep. I can't eat. I look at Reina and I don't see my sister anymore. I see someone who got lucky while I got nothing. I see someone who found a shortcut while I'm still grinding myself to dust on the long road. It's not fair. It's not fair. It's not fair. February 10, 2024. I know what I have to do. The research started that same night. Joy's browser history, recovered later by digital forensics, tells the story of a woman transitioning from jealousy to calculation. February 10th, Sugar Daddy Relationships Middle East, February 11th. What happens if affair exposed Qatar, February 12th. Blackmail laws Qatar, February 14th. How much to pay for silence rich man affair, February 18th. Wealthy Qatari scandal exposure, what happens, February 22nd. Taking photos without someone knowing, February 28th. How to prove affair evidence pictures, March 5th. Hidden camera apps best 2024, March 12th. Can you get deported for blackmail? The plan formed piece by piece, search by search. Joy couldn't get a golden ticket of her own. She wasn't pretty enough, wasn't charming enough, wasn't lucky enough. But she could tax Reina's ticket. She could demand a share. All she needed was evidence. If you're following this story and seeing where it's headed, take a moment to subscribe and hit that notification bell. What happens next will test everything you think you know about friendship, desperation, and the terrible mathematics of survival. Stay with me. March 15, 2024. The opportunity revealed itself. Joy was pretending to sleep when Reina made the phone call. It was 11:30 at night, and Reina was sitting on her bed, phone pressed to her ear, speaking in that soft, intimate voice Joy had come to despise. Yes, Friday works, around 2 p.m. Joy has a double shift that day. She won't be back until late. Yes, I'll text you the address. I want you to see it, even though it's nothing like your world. I want you to see where I really live. Joy's eyes snapped open in the darkness. He was coming here. The wealthy sponsor, the source of all that money, he was coming to their apartment. While Joy was supposed to be at work, this was it. This was her chance. For the next week, Joy refined her plan. She would leave for work as normal on Friday morning. She would come back around 2:30, after they'd had time to settle in. She would take photos, as many as she could get, before they noticed her. Then she would confront them, demand payment, 200,000 riyals. That was her price. Enough for her mother's treatment. Enough to save her family the way Reina was saving hers. She practiced what she would say. She rehearsed expressions in the bathroom mirror. Calm, businesslike, unflinching. She wasn't going to be emotional about this. This was a transaction. Reina had something Joy needed, and Joy had leverage to get it. In her journal, the night before the confrontation. March 21st, 2024. Tomorrow it happens. I've thought about this for weeks. I've planned every detail. This isn't wrong, this is fair. Reina stumbled into money she didn't earn while I've broken my body for nothing. She could have shared. She could have helped me. Instead, she hid everything and let me suffer. She doesn't deserve all that luck. She doesn't deserve to save her family while mine dies. Tomorrow I'm going to even the scales. And if she doesn't like it, she should have thought about that before she lied to me for 8 months. Nene, I'm coming. I'm going to save you. March 22nd, 2024. The day that would end one life and destroy another. 6:15 a.m. The alarm on Joy's phone shattered the silence of Unit 4B. Both women stirred in their beds, performing the morning rituals they'd shared for 2.5 years. But today, nothing was the same. Today, both of them were acting. Reina was nervous, her stomach tight with anticipation. Rumi was coming. To her home. To the cramped apartment she'd been embarrassed to describe. The life she'd been afraid to show him. Part of her was excited. This felt like a step forward, like he was accepting all of her, not just the version she presented in hotel suites. Part of her was terrified of what he would think. Joy was calm in a way that frightened her. She'd barely slept, but her mind was clear, her hands steady. She had rehearsed today 100 times in her imagination. She knew exactly what she would do, what she would say, how she would finally take control of a situation that had made her feel powerless for months. 6:45 a.m., breakfast together. Instant coffee and pandesal that Joy had bought the day before. They sat at the tiny table in the kitchen, eating in silence that felt different than usual. Heavier. Charged. Double shift today, Joy said casually, not looking up from her bread. Won't be back until 11 at least. That's brutal, Raina replied. You've been working so much lately. Money doesn't earn itself. The words came out sharper than Joy intended. She softened her voice. I'm trying to save for Nene's treatment. You know how it is. Did Raina flinch? Joy thought she saw something cross her roommate's face. Guilt, maybe, or discomfort. But Raina just nodded and said, You're a good daughter. The words were acid in Joy's ears. A good daughter. As if working yourself to death while your mother slowly died was the same as finding a rich sponsor who could solve all your problems with a few envelopes of cash. I'll probably just rest today, Raina said, her voice carefully casual. Maybe clean the apartment. Lies. Both of them lying to each other across a table the size of a school desk, in an apartment smaller than the hotel suites where Raina met her sponsor, in a life that had become unbearable for Joy to share. 7:30 a.m. Joy left first. She hugged Raina at the door, a habit from better days, from when they really were sisters, and said, Take care of yourself, T. You too. Don't work too hard. Joy walked to the elevator, pressed the button, and waited. She didn't look back. If she looked back, she might lose her nerve. 7:47 a.m. Joy arrived at the metro station but didn't board a train toward the mall. Instead, she walked 3 blocks east to a coffee shop called Morning Star Cafe, a place she'd scouted earlier in the week. It was far enough from Al Maha residences to avoid being seen by neighbors, close enough to return quickly when the time came. She ordered the cheapest item on the menu, a 6 riyal black coffee, and found a seat in the corner. She had over 6 hours to wait. 6 hours to think, to plan, to keep her nerve from failing. The coffee grew cold. She ordered another. The hours crawled. 12:30 p.m. Joy walked to a mobile accessories store 2 blocks away and purchased a cheap phone stand for 15 riyals. Her hands were steady as she paid. The stand would hold her phone at the right angle while she photographed whatever was happening in the apartment. Evidence. Proof. Leverage. 1:15 p.m. She returned to the coffee shop and watched the clock. 45 more minutes. She imagined Raina preparing, cleaning, changing sheets, putting on makeup for her wealthy lover. The thought made her sick and furious in equal measure. 1:45 p.m. Joy left the coffee shop and began walking back toward Al Maha residences. Her heart was pounding but her steps were measured. Calm. She was going to be calm. Meanwhile, in Unit 4B, Raina Delgado was anything but calm. 10 a.m. She cleaned obsessively, scrubbed the bathroom until the tiles gleamed, mopped the kitchen floor twice, changed the sheets on her bed, not because anything would happen there, but because she wanted everything perfect. 11:30 a.m. She moved Joy's personal items, clothes draped over chairs, toiletries spread across the bathroom counter, into neat piles that she pushed into Joy's closet. She didn't want Rumi to see how cramped they really lived. She didn't want him to know that 2 grown women shared a single room and split the cost of soap. 12:15 p.m. Shower. Hair dried and styled the way he liked it, down, natural, no elaborate pins or products. Makeup applied carefully, enough to enhance, not enough to seem like she was trying too hard. 12:45 p.m. She put on a dress she'd bought with his money. Simple, modest, navy blue. Nothing that would attract attention on the street, but elegant enough to feel worthy of him. 1:30 p.m. She texted Rumi. Building is Al Maha Residences, Al Nakhil District. Unit 4B on the 4th floor. I can't wait to see you. 1:47 p.m. His reply. On my way. 20 minutes. Her heart was racing. This was real. He was coming to see her life. The cramped apartment, the peeling paint, the narrow balcony overlooking nothing but an alley. And if he still looked at her the same way after seeing all of it, then maybe this was more than an arrangement. Maybe it was something real. 2:17 p.m. Sheikh Rumi bin Rashid Al Mansour knocked on the door of Unit 4B. He had come alone, which was unprecedented. No driver, no assistant, no security. Just a man in casual clothes carrying a bouquet of carnations, because Reina had once mentioned they were her mother's favorite flower. He had rented a car himself, driven through neighborhoods he'd never seen, parked on a street where his vehicle stood out like a diamond in sand. Reina opened the door, and for a moment neither of them spoke. Then she smiled, that wide, genuine smile that made him feel like the luckiest man in the world, and said, "You found it. The GPS worked perfectly." He handed her the flowers. "These are for you." She buried her face in the carnations, breathing in their scent. "They're beautiful. Come in. It's not much, but..." He stepped inside and looked around. Reina watched his face, searching for disgust or disappointment. Instead, she saw something like sadness. "You live here?" he asked quietly. "In this space. It's not so bad. Joy and I have made it home." He walked to the window, looked out at the view, concrete walls, laundry lines, a sliver of sky. "You deserve better than this. I have what I need. I want to give you more. A real apartment, somewhere you can breathe." She touched his arm. "Being here with me is enough, really." For the next hour, they sat on her bed, the only seating option, drinking tea she'd prepared, talking about nothing important. Her family, his frustrations with business partners, a movie they both wanted to see. Normal conversation, intimate in its ordinariness. At some point, neither would remember exactly when the conversation stopped being verbal. Months of emotion, of careful restraint, of pretending this was just companionship, finally gave way to something more honest. They were together in the way they'd avoided being for so long, vulnerable in the cramped space that contained all of Reina's real life. Neither of them heard the key in the lock. 2:57 p.m. Joy Marasigan stood outside her own apartment door, heart hammering against her ribs. She had seen the car, sleek, expensive, utterly out of place on their street. He was here. It was real. She slid her key into the lock as quietly as possible, turned it, pushed the door open an inch, 2 inches. Through the gap, she could see the bedroom. The bed. 2 figures. Her phone was already recording. She pushed the door fully open and stepped inside. The next 47 seconds would be reconstructed dozens of times by investigators, prosecutors, and defense attorneys. They would become the most analyzed 47 seconds in Qatar's criminal history. Second 0 to 5. Joy stands in the doorway, phone raised, camera recording. Reina and Rumi are on the bed, startled by the sound of the door. Their faces register confusion, then recognition, then horror. Second 6 to 10. Reina screams, "Joe, why? You're supposed to be at work." She scrambles to cover herself, grabbing for clothes. Second 11 to 15. Joy's voice is ice. "Surprise. I came home early. And I see you've been keeping secrets." Second 16 to 22. Rumi stands, putting himself between Joy and Reina. "Who are you? What do you want?" Second 23 to 30. Joy laughs, a harsh, broken sound. "I'm her roommate, her sister. The one she's been lying to for months while you shower her with money, and she lets her family save her family while mine dies." Second 31 to 38. Reina is crying now. "Joy, please, I can explain." Second 39 to 43. Joy, explain? "Explain what? That you found a rich sponsor and kept it secret while I worked myself half to death? That you could have helped me and you didn't." Second 44 to 47. Rumi, his voice calm despite everything. "How much do you want?" The negotiation that followed was brief and brutal. Joy named her price, 200,000 riyals. Enough for her mother's treatment. Enough to close the gap that had been drowning her for years. Rumi agreed immediately. "Done. I'll transfer it tonight. Just delete whatever you've recorded and we'll forget." This happened. For a moment, one fragile, impossible moment, it seemed like the situation might resolve peacefully. Money would change hands. Secrets would stay secret. Everyone would walk away damaged but alive. Then Reina spoke. "No." Both Joy and Rumi turned to look at her. She had stopped crying. Her voice was steady. "I'm not paying her to blackmail us. I'm not letting her hold this over us forever. Reina, Rumi started. She's supposed to be my sister. Sisters don't do this. Joy's laugh was ugly. Sisters don't lie for 8 months. Sisters don't hide golden tickets while the people they claim to love are suffering. I was going to help you. I was planning to ask Rumi. When? Reina? When my mother was already dead. When it was too late. I was waiting for the right time. The right time was 6 months ago. The right time was the first envelope of cash he gave you. You could have shared. You could have trusted me. Instead you hid everything and let me drown. Reina moved toward Joy, reaching for the phone. Give me that. You're not going to ruin this. Don't touch me. Give me the phone. Reina grabbed for it. Joy pulled away. Their hands collided, nails scratching skin, bodies colliding in the cramped space. They stumbled backward, struggling, crashing into furniture. Rumi shouted something. Stop, both of you, stop. But neither woman heard him. They crashed through the balcony door. The balcony was 4 feet wide and 3 feet deep. Not enough room for 2 people to fight. Not nearly enough room for 2 people whose entire friendship had collapsed into violence. Reina was trying to grab Joy's phone. Joy was trying to push her away. The railing, only 3 feet high, a building code violation that the landlord had never fixed, pressed against Reina's lower back. Let go! Joy shouted. You're not taking everything from me. Joy shoved her. 2 hands against Reina's chest. Not hard enough to kill. She wasn't trying to kill, she would swear later she was just trying to get free. But hard enough. Reina's back hit the railing. Her arms windmilled. Her eyes met Joy's for 1 eternal second. Shock, betrayal, something that might have been understanding. And then she was gone. For floors down. For seconds of falling. A sound that Joy would hear in her nightmares for the rest of her life. Then screaming from the alley below. Joy stood frozen at the railing, looking down at what she had done. Rumi appeared beside her, his face the color of old paper. What did you do? I didn't mean to. She fell. She didn't fall. I saw you push her. Joy turned to him, wild-eyed. It was an accident. It was just, I was trying to get her to let go. Rumi backed away from her like she was something dangerous. I was never here. Do you understand me? I was never here. You can't leave. You're a witness. But he was already moving, grabbing his shoes, his phone, heading for the door. I'm a married man who was caught with a dead woman. I don't exist. Good luck explaining this alone. The door slammed behind him, and Joy Marasigan stood alone in the apartment she had shared with her sister, listening to sirens approach, knowing that in the next few minutes she would have to make a choice that would define the rest of her life. She chose to lie. The sirens were getting closer. Joy Marasigan stood in the center of Unit 4B, her mind racing through possibilities like a computer calculating its own destruction. Reina was dead. Rumi was gone. She had maybe 5 minutes, maybe less, before police arrived and started asking questions she couldn't answer truthfully. The phone in her hand was still recording. She stopped it, looked at the footage. 3 minutes and 47 seconds of evidence that would send her to prison for the rest of her life. Delete. Are you sure you want to delete this video? Yes. The footage vanished. But Joy knew that deleted didn't mean gone forever. Forensic teams could recover things. Digital ghosts could be resurrected. She needed more than a clean phone. She needed a story that would hold. 3:12 p.m. Joy moved through the apartment with mechanical precision, her body operating on autopilot, while her mind constructed the narrative that would save her. First, Rumi's flowers. The carnations he'd brought for Reina were sitting in a glass of water on the kitchen counter. Beautiful, incriminating, impossible to explain. Joy grabbed them, walked to the hallway, and stuffed them deep into the garbage chute. They tumbled down 4 floors into darkness. Second, the teacups, 2 of them, sitting in the sink where Reina had left them after serving her lover. Joy washed them both, dried them, put one back in the cabinet. 1 cup, 1 person. Reina had been alone. Third, the bed. The sheets were rumpled, obviously used by more than 1 person. Joy stripped them, threw them in the laundry basket, remade the bed with fresh linens. Her hands were shaking now, but she kept moving. Fourth, Rumi's presence. She scanned the apartment for anything he might have left behind. A stray hair on the pillow. The faint smell of expensive cologne. She opened the windows, let the hot Qatar air rush in, sprayed the cheap air freshener they kept in the bathroom. 3:18 p.m. The sirens stopped. Somewhere below, she heard car doors slamming, voices shouting in Arabic, the controlled chaos of emergency response. Joy looked at herself in the bathroom mirror. Her face was pale, her eyes wild, her hands trembling. She needed to cry. She needed to look like a woman who had just watched her sister die. The tears came easier than she expected. 3:22 p.m. The knock on the door. Two uniformed officers stood in the hallway, their faces professionally blank. "Are you the resident of this unit?" "Yes, Joy Marasigan. My roommate." Joy's voice cracked. She jumped. "I tried to stop her, but she jumped." For 48 hours, it seemed like Joy's story would hold. The initial police assessment ruled Reina's death a probable suicide. Depression among overseas Filipino workers was well documented. A 2023 study had found that nearly 40% of OFWs in the Gulf region reported symptoms of clinical depression. Reina fit the profile: young, isolated, far from family, working a demanding job for minimal pay. Joy gave her statement at the police station that same evening. Her story was simple, coherent, tragic. She had come home early from work, stomach trouble. She found Reina on the balcony, crying. Reina had been depressed for weeks. There had been a relationship that ended badly. Reina had climbed onto the railing before Joy could stop her. The detective wrote everything down, asked clarifying questions. Joy answered with practiced calm, crying at appropriate intervals. At 7:30 p.m., the detective closed his notebook. "Thank you for your cooperation. We may have follow-up questions." Joy nodded. "She was like my sister." The words tasted like ash in her mouth. The cracks began to appear on March 25th. Detective Sergeant Fatima Al-Rashidi was assigned to review the case file before it could be officially closed. Fatima was thorough, and as the daughter of a Filipina mother and Qatari father, she understood things about the OFW community that her colleagues sometimes missed. She started with the basics. Joy's time card showed she had clocked out for lunch at 12:15 p.m. and never returned. She had told police she left work early due to illness, but the records showed she simply disappeared. The building's security camera showed Joy entering at 2:57 p.m., not 2:30 as she'd claimed. 27 minutes of missing time. Then Fatima found something more significant. At 2:14 p.m., a man had entered the building, tall, well-dressed, carrying flowers. He didn't match any resident in the system. At 3:09 p.m., that same man had exited. No flowers, walking quickly, looking over his shoulder. 12 minutes before Joy called the police, Detective Al-Rashidi made a note. Who is this man? And why did he leave in such a hurry? The investigation accelerated over the next 5 days. March 26th, digital forensics recovered deleted messages from Reina's phone. Hundreds of exchanges with a contact saved as K, romantic, intimate, discussing money. Bank records showed deposits totaling over 180,000 riyals from wire transfers linked to a company called Al Noor Investments Ltd. March 27th, Al Noor Investments was traced to the Al Mansour Trading Group, one of the wealthiest families in Qatar. March 28th, the man from the security footage was identified as Sheikh Rumi bin Rashid Al Mansour, married, father of 2, vice president of the family's real estate division. March 29th, Joy's cell tower data placed her in Al Nakheel from 12:45 p.m. onward, nearly 2 hours before she claimed to have arrived home. March 30th, the medical examiner's final report noted bruising on Reina's upper arms, consistent with being grabbed. DNA under her fingernails didn't match her own profile. The injury pattern suggested she had been pushed, not jumped. The case was reclassified from suicide to suspicious death. March 31st, 2024. 10 a.m. Doha Metropolitan Police Station. Joy sat across from Detective Al-Rashidi in the same interview room where she'd given her original statement. But everything was different now. The detective had a folder thick with evidence. Miss Marasigan, your time card shows you never returned from lunch. Your phone records place you near the apartment 2 hours before you claim to have arrived. Can you explain that? Joy's throat tightened. I took a walk to clear my head. A 2-hour walk in 38-degree heat? I stopped at a coffee shop. Which one? I don't remember. Detective Al-Rashidi opened her folder. We've recovered security footage from your building. A man entered at 2:14 carrying flowers. He left at 3:09, 12 minutes before you called police. Who was he? The blood drained from Joy's face. I didn't see anyone. We found carnation petals in the garbage chute on your floor. We recovered deleted messages from Reina's phone showing she was in a relationship with Sheikh Rumi bin Rashid Al Mansour. We believe he was in your apartment when Reina died. I don't know anything about that. Miss Marasigan. The detective's voice was calm but unyielding. We have DNA evidence. Skin cells under Reina's fingernails that match samples from your hairbrush. We have your browser history showing searches for blackmail and hidden cameras. And we have your journal. Joy's blood turned to ice. My journal. Reina's cousin found it when collecting her belongings. Tomorrow I'm going to even the scales. She doesn't deserve to save her family while mine dies. Those are your words, written the night before Reina fell. Joy's carefully constructed world collapsed. She could see it falling, piece by piece, like Reina falling through 4 floors of empty air. I want a lawyer. That's your right. But Sheikh Rumi has agreed to provide a statement. Whatever you tell us now, his version will also be on record. Joy knew there was no version of this story where she walked free. Rumi would save himself. Rich men always did. She had no leverage, no protection, no one to call. She had only the truth. And so, at 10:47 a.m. on March 31, 2024, 9 days after pushing her best friend off a 4th-floor balcony, Joy Marasigan began to confess. The confession took 4 hours. Joy told them everything. The discovery of Reina's secret life, her mother's cancer and the impossible mathematics of treatment costs, the plan to blackmail a man she'd never met, and finally the balcony, the struggle, the push, the fall. I didn't mean to kill her, Joy said, her voice breaking. I just wanted her to let go of my phone. She was grabbing at me, and I pushed her away. I wasn't trying to. I didn't think she would. Detective Al-Rashidi waited until Joy composed herself. Did you push her with intent to harm? Joy was silent for a long moment. I was so angry. For months I had been so angry. She had everything I needed and she didn't share it. I thought I deserved what she had. Did you want to hurt her? In that moment, I wanted her to disappear. Not die. Just stop existing in a way that made me feel so small. She wiped her eyes. Does it matter what I wanted? She's dead. Killed her. If I hadn't tried to blackmail her, if I had just asked for help instead of trying to take it, her voice cracked. She was my sister. I told everyone she was my sister. And I killed her because she got lucky and I didn't. The trial began on August 5, 2024, and lasted 11 days. The prosecution presented the journal entries, browser history, security footage, and DNA evidence. They painted a picture of a woman who had spent months planning to exploit her roommate's secret, whose blackmail attempt had escalated into fatal violence. Sheikh Rumi testified via video link from an undisclosed location. His statement was clinical, the words of a man reading from a script prepared by expensive lawyers. He confirmed the affair, the payments, the visit. He described watching Joy push Reina. Why didn't you call the police? The prosecutor asked. I was afraid of the scandal. I made a terrible choice in a terrible moment. He was never charged. Obstruction of justice, failure to report a death. All charges were quietly dropped in exchange for his testimony. His family's lawyers saw to that. Some people, Joy learned, existed above consequences. The defense argued for manslaughter rather than murder. Joy hadn't planned to kill Reina. She had planned to blackmail her. The death resulted from a struggle that escalated unexpectedly. They presented context. The cancer diagnosis, the financial burden, the psychological toll of watching someone you love die while being unable to help. Joy Marasigan is not a monster, the defense attorney argued. She is a desperate woman who made desperate choices. A daughter who would do anything to save her mother. A human being crushed by circumstances who, in one terrible moment, did something she can never take back. The jury deliberated for 19 hours. On August 16, 2024, they returned their verdict, guilty of second-degree murder. Sentencing was delivered on September 3, 2024. Judge Abdullah Al-Farsi addressed Joy directly. Miss Marasigan, you came to this country seeking a better life. Millions of women make the same journey every year. They endure loneliness, hardship, exploitation, all hoping to send enough money home to change their families' futures. Most of these women do not become criminals. Most endure their struggles with dignity. Most do not allow suffering to curdle into violence against people who should have been their closest allies. You killed Reina Delgado because she had something you didn't, because life was unfair. But life is unfair to everyone. The question is what we do with that suffering. Do we reach out for help, or do we reach out to harm? You chose destruction. You chose to take from someone who would have given to you freely if you had only asked. Joy and Corpus Marasigan, I sentence you to 15 years in Doha Central Prison, with no possibility of parole for the first 10 years. Upon completion, you will be deported to the Philippines and barred from returning for life. Joy heard the sentence as if from underwater. 15 years. She would be 41 when she got out. She had come to Qatar to save her family. Instead, she had destroyed two. The aftermath spread outward like ripples from a stone. Rosa Delgado, Reina's mother, flew to Doha to collect her daughter's ashes. She was 60 years old, diabetic, half-blind, and had never been on an airplane. The Filipino community raised money for her trip. At the memorial service, Rosa stood before 200 overseas workers. My daughter came here to save us. She sent money every month. She never complained. She was building us a house, a real house with a bathroom. She promised me. Rosa's voice trembled but didn't break. The house is almost finished. I will live there for the rest of my life. And every day, I will light a candle for my Reina, my queen, my daughter who kept every promise she ever made. Erlinda Marasigan, Joy's mother, did not die. After Joy's arrest, the story went viral. A GoFundMe campaign raised over 3.2 million pesos in 6 weeks. Erlinda underwent surgery in May, chemotherapy through summer. By October, her doctors declared her cancer-free. Joy learned of her mother's recovery through a letter smuggled into prison. She read it alone in her cell and wept until she couldn't breathe. She had killed to save her mother, and her mother had been saved anyway, by the kindness of strangers, by the viral spread of tragedy, by exactly the kind of community support Joy had been too proud to ask for. In her first letter home, Joy wrote, "Nene, I am glad you are well. Please do not visit me. I am where I deserve to be. I thought I was saving you. But the truth is I was saving myself. I was so tired of being powerless, watching others succeed while I failed. I told myself it was love, but it was jealousy. I told myself it was justice, but it was murder. Reina was my sister. Killed her. Please forgive me, even though I don't deserve it." Sheikh Rumi returned to his life as if nothing happened. His name was scrubbed from public records. He remains married. His children are now 15 and 12. But sources say something has changed. He drinks more, sleeps less. He has made substantial anonymous donations to organizations supporting overseas Filipino workers. Some wounds don't heal just because you're rich enough to hide them. Reina Marie Santos Delgado is buried in Lipa City, Batangas. Her grave marker reads, "Ang aking pangako tinupad ko." My promise I kept. Rosa lives alone in the house Reina built. She tends a garden, attends church on Sundays, lights a candle every evening facing west, toward Qatar, toward the country where her daughter gave everything. My daughter was a queen, Rosa tells visitors. Not because of money, because of her heart. This story isn't about a scheming sheik or a desperate blackmailer. It's about what happens when two people start in the same place, and one finds luck while the other finds only resentment. Joy and Reina should have been allies. They should have carried each other through darkness. Instead, one kept secrets and the other kept score. And the mathematics of desperation turned sisters into enemies. Two women left the Philippines seeking better lives. One lies in a grave. The other lies in a cell. Neither found what they were looking for. The golden ticket was never gold at all. It was just paper, and paper burns.